Hi guys, Kevin Lee Jacobs here. I'm making a real mess today, but I can't help it. I have some African violets that I've ignored all summer because I was busy with the outdoor garden and also doing a lot of video recipes. So the plants were ignored, they're unhappy, and I want to put a smile on their faces and get them to bloom again. So let me adjust the camera so you can see what I am doing. And let's go like this. And see all these leaves? I've been removing them from the violets because they were older leaves and they didn't look so good. And here on this particular violet, I have what's called suckers growing out of the crown. So what I'm going to do is take a pen knife, it's a knife with a little razor, or a pen shaped thing with a little razor blade at the end, and I am going to cut that sucker off. And oops, one of the leaves came out, and that's okay. So there are no roots attached to this sucker, but that doesn't mean it can't become a brand new productive plant. So I filled up one of these rotisserie chicken containers with a couple of inches of just regular potting soil. It's peat moss and vermiculite and perlite in the formula. And I'm just going to poke a little hole in the potting mix and insert that little sucker and firm the soil around it. And believe it or not, this sucker and its two mates over here will all grow roots and become fresh new plants. And let me see if I can do another one of these for you. Again, I hope you can see here. More suckers right here. So off they go. Whack! Ooh, this is a really nice one. Kind of big. And there's actually a little root attached. So this one too will go into my little tray. And in a minute I will show you how this tray will become an instant terrarium. A terrarium is great for African violets because it provides plenty of humidity, and if you know anything about African violets, they do like a humid atmosphere. And now that I have the suckers out, I'll take one more off. Bingo! There we go. Actually, this one looks too good not to pot up. So we do that. Take care of this one. I'm not going to do too many of these because I already have a plethora of African violets growing elsewhere in the house, and God only knows I don't need more of them, even though I really love African violets. So here's what we are left with. An African violet with a very long neck. And Paul Serrano at Linden Lion Violets, it's my favorite African violet store. Paul Serrano is a master African violet breeder. He showed me what to do with these long neck plants. So I've already cut off most of the roots. So I am going to remove a whole bunch of the leaves so that I end up with a very small plant. And I'll show you what to do with all of these excess leaves in just a moment. I only want 4 or 5 leaves. Here we go. I'll remove these as well. And what I'm aiming for is a rosette of leaves. And one more. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves. And the long neck. So I am going to cut off all but maybe a 1/2 inch of the remaining roots, and then I'm going to pot this in a little 3-inch pot. It's actually the same pot that the African violet came in. And so I have my potting mixture here, and I will add a handful of the mix and insert the African violet, which is really only a former shadow or skeleton of itself. And then I'm going to add enough potting mix to cover this long neck. So here we go. 2. It's actually fun to do once you get the hang of it. And then you will always know what to do when your African violets don't look so good. And I'm going to moisten this. Can you see? I'm going to moisten this with some lukewarm or slightly warmer water. Let it drain. So hang on. I will just leave that in the sink to drain. Now, as for all of these leaves, each one of these has the potential of producing 8 to 12 baby African violets. And so the leaves are really easy to propagate. And you can use that same rotisserie chicken tray to simply insert the leaves. I'm going to do 1. I set them at an angle, but you certainly don't have to. They can stand straight up like this. And it doesn't even matter how long the stem is. The stem can be really only 1/2 inch, and it will still grow roots and produce offspring. So in it goes. Now I've already dampened the soil in this little tray. So next step is to put the lid on, and it's the same lid that came with that rotisserie chicken. And by the way, I have put no drainage holes in the bottom of this thing. So if you use a rotisserie chicken container, or even one of those clear plastic lettuce containers, just slightly dampen the soil so you don't have to worry about drainage. And now these leaves and these little suckers that had no roots are all going to develop roots once you put this under fluorescent lights or LED lights. You could even put them in a bright window as long as that window gets no direct sunlight. If it gets direct sun, the terrarium will become too hot and you will cook all of your African violets. So I'm going to put this under fluorescent lights, and in about a month or maybe 6 weeks or so, I will start to see new leaves forming in the suckers, which means they've taken root, and I will see little tiny baby leaves emerging from the mother leaves that I inserted. And that means that those leaves too have rooted and they're producing their offspring. And once they get large enough to handle, I will pot them into little tiny 2-inch pots. And when that happens, I'll make another video. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you have some African violets that haven't bloomed for a long time, give them a little surgery. You don't have to be namby-pamby. You don't have to worry about anything. African violets are really tough. And one last thing, if you want your African violets to bloom, do what I do and feed them with this stuff. It's called Jack's Classic Blossom Booster. It has 10% nitrogen, 30% phosphate, and 20% potash. And it's that low nitrogen, high phosphorus that encourages bloom. I use it for all of my African violets. I even use it for my outdoor container plants like petunias and whatnot. And boy, do those plants bloom and bloom and bloom. And you can buy this in certain garden centers, although it's easier to find on Amazon. That's where I buy it. And you just dissolve, half teaspoon of the granular, it's a granular substance. You dissolve the granules, half teaspoon in a gallon of lukewarm or slightly warmer water, and water your African violets, and all will be well. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.